There's something that might trigger you a little bit more, Basil.
Insider.com. Insider.com. Do we have the funding breakdown of Insider.com at hand?
Yeah.
Because we could do it by memory, but I thought if you had it at hand,
yeah, I can do it here.
then we can do
Let's
that.
see.
We're bringing up the
Boom.
Harvard list.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
Business
gosh!
Insider. Yep.
On my
Alex?
computer, on my laptop here, I don't have the same amount of, or I just have different security software. The advertisements are insane on this page. Okay, continue.
Okay. Business Insider. Axel Springer SE, German publisher, is majority owned by KKR. That's Henry Kravis, George R. Roberts, Jerome Kohlberg Jr. Private Equity.
Private equity.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. The headline here: all those new servers at your favorite restaurant aren't just bad at waiting tables. They may wind up crashing the entire economy.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Who's going to crash the economy? Is it Biden? No. Is it
the
Klaus
Fed?
Schwab? Is it the Fed? Is it all the people in charge of the banks? No. It's the servers at your restaurant that are crashing the economy.
That's terrible.
Is just because he deserves to have his name out here. Neil Dutta, D-U-T-T-A. Let's see what he has to say. This came out on the 5th. How long does it take for a waiter to bring you your order? How many boxes can one Amazon worker fill in an hour? How many articles can I write a month?
Oh my gosh, this guy sounds like he's a robot lover.
I'm for the robots.
This guy gives himself a month to do his job, and he's giving the Amazon worker an hour. And
wow. Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Go on.
And he ends this stanza with, just how efficient are America's workers?
Oh, please,
While
get out of
these
here,
may
Duda.
seem while these may seem like questions better suited for a performance evaluation meeting, the efficiency of workers has huge implications for the economy. Productivity growth, the change in how much workers produce in an hour, has collapsed in 2022.
I wonder why.
no.
Why did it collapse? What happened?
If weak productivity continues, that will lead to higher costs, lower profit margins, and ultimately higher inflation. Essentially, bad news for companies and the stock market.
What?
So not
What?
only
No, come on. No.
not only is he blaming inflation on waiters and Amazon workers, but he is saying this higher inflation caused by the working man is bad for companies and stock markets. He doesn't even recognize how the inflation is affecting the exact workers who he claims are causing it. Listen to this corporate drivel leaking from the back end of some sort of bovine who is standing over a funnel at Insider, and they use that excrement to print this nonsense about how the American workers' lack of productivity caused inflation and how that's so bad for the companies in the stock market.
All right. Let's see what else he says.
Efficiency drag. That's what he calls it. Labor productivity is measured simply as total output per hour worked, but there is much more to it than that. Under the hood, the measure also accounts for things like the composition of the workforce, workforce's ages, education, as well as changes in the quality of the machinery, tech, and field facilities workers have to use. The metric total factor productivity even adds in the intangibles that are not embodied by other factors, such as economy-wide technical progress. In all, productivity helps us define how efficiently a society uses its resources and is an important signal of how quickly an economy will grow long term. So notice how they are talking about workers. not just workers, but their age, their education. These are considered resources. And if they're not being put to their full potential, that's bad news. In the years before the pandemic, productivity was picking up. A tight labor market and increased competition for workers meant that firms invested more in their workforces. That is a lie, but that's okay. I'm not going to get worked up about that one. But notice, productivity is up because of a tight labor market and increased competition, because it's harder to get a job, and because more people are unemployed, and because people are compromising on what they are worth and what they can, run their family with, because of the pain and punishment of the working class. Things were looking up. From 2017 to 2019, labor productivity growth increased 1.6% a year, more than double the pace in previous 3 years. Many have been hopeful about productivity gains in light of pandemic-era time-saving changes like white-collar employees working from home instead of commuting. So far, however, labor productivity looks quite soft, and I see strong reasons to think it will stay that way. I wonder how much other factors are going into this productivity slump than simply the attitude of the workers. On the output side, economic growth is looking weak. It was essentially flat in the first half of 2022. Huh, weird.
When the richest lost, or the stock market itself, didn't it lose I can't remember the number now. Multiple trillion. It's
quite a lot.
Crypto itself lost 2 trillion. So it's got to be 20 trillion or something.
Then he goes into kind of the same stuff. He's talking about the average of gross domestic product and gross domestic income. And it doesn't look like it's much improved. It goes into a bunch of numbers and stuff. But he says, what's behind this drop? With productivity on the decline, the next question is obvious. Why are workers getting less efficient? Ugh. What has changed that is making it so that employees need to use more hours to produce the same amount of output? The answer is twofold. Are you listening, workers? This is why you're not being so productive. First, there has been a lack of capital deepening. Investment by businesses in productivity enhancing processes and tech. Capital deepening is straightforward. It is when investment, like robots, software, and machinery, rises more quickly than labor hours worked. From 1990 to 2010, capital deepening was an important driver of strong productivity growth, but stalled for nearly a decade following the financial crisis. But by 2016, things started to turn around. Capital deepening added about 0.7 percentage points to productivity from 2016 to 2021. However, in 2022, the contribution has tumbled to zero.
Those are the Trump years, 2016 to 2021.
Yeah, isn't that weird, huh? When Trump was in charge, was our best productivity in a long time. However, 2022, it's tumbled to zero.
And it's because you workers. You workers at restaurants and factories.
And it doesn't seem to be any reason to expect business investment to bounce back. Nobody's investing in their businesses now that Trump's out of office. Capital spending tends to follow the economic outlook. And with the chances of a recession on the rise, companies will be reluctant.
Chances of a recession?
Yeah,
gosh, what is this guy on? I was wondering
if you're going to catch that. The chances of a recession. Okay. Companies will be reluctant to make big investments in new equipment or facilities. The latest regional manufacturing purchasers, managers indexes, surveys of business managers, blah, 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 blah. Okay. They're not buying enough stuff. The second reason for the drastic fall off in productivity is the state of America's labor market. Put simply, many workers don't know how to do their jobs very efficiently right now. There's too much churn in the job market. A little bit of churn is good. Workers find a job that suits them better and get paid a bit more, and everyone wins. But right now, we have too much of a good thing.
What?
Workers finding jobs that suit them and pay them more.
It's too good.
You can have too much of a good thing, Gons. You can't have all these workers happy in their jobs and making enough money to feed their families. That's bad news for business. The quits rate remained higher than it's ever been. When a worker quits one job and starts a new one, it takes time for them to learn the ropes, the ins, the outs, and that make them more efficient and able to produce at the highest level. At the same time, constant turnover means other employees have to take the time to train and cover their new coworkers. The airline industry is a very prominent example. New workers are trying to get up to speed, and older workers spending more time training their new counterparts. That leads to slower boarding times.
This guy's a robot. This guy is a complete AI creation. There is no way he's a human. He's looking at humans. Like, look at the lack of productivity of these humans. They're so inefficient. Oh, they must train. They must socialize and train newcomers. Wasting time. Cannot produce. My gosh.
I'm not going to read this whole paragraph, but just you can listen to this part. Similarly, the workforce is getting younger, adding a crop of less experienced workers. A crop. Yeah. He's literally talking about young teenage workers as crops. He is a robot.
He's a robot. I'm telling you, the guy's not real. There's
Absolute
no way.
robot.
The Antichrist may be here, folks. It may be this guy writing this article.
Neil Duda. All right. It's almost over. I'm skipping down to bad for companies, the economy, and stocks. This is his summation. The slowdown in labor productivity has big implications. For companies, this means they need to spend more on inputs and labor to produce the same amount. These higher input and labor costs squeeze profit margins. Companies don't like skinnier profit margins, so they will likely try to make up for the slower productivity in other ways, like higher costs for consumers or cuts to costs in other areas. We're paying these people too much money, man. What do we do? I don't know. Raise prices.
We gotta charge people more.
Those
Those
workers are gonna need to make more money to spend on these higher costs. Yeah, I know. It's all these dang teenagers getting jobs. They're gonna ruin the economy. There's a big difference between a margin squeeze driven primarily by higher compensation and one driven mainly by weaker productivity. And then he kind of goes into some nonsense here. But he ends with this. These productivity produced problems for companies are not a welcome development for stock markets. If higher labor costs are passed on to consumers, that will keep inflation higher for longer. Bro.
What?
That is inflation. What are you talking about?
My gosh, dude.
Forcing the Federal Reserve to continue to aggressively hike interest rates, which in turn dampens the outlook for the market. And if firms try to save costs by letting go of unproductive workers, total incomes will slow and fewer households will have the cash to continue spending. Yeah, that is how the money works, bro. We get it. Higher rates for longer and weaker consumer spending can add up to one thing: a recession. And stock markets don't do well in recessions. Cool.
Sounds like he's got some heavy investments in the stock market. He's not happy about it.
His portfolio is not looking too good. He's like, I'm going to write up a quick little doodad here, an insider to shame some workers into taking less money and being more productive.
Yeah, Neil Duda writing up a Duda.
The message of this is humans are not robots. And if they were robots, we wouldn't be here. So everybody, replace your workers with robots, and let's just get this party started, all right? And that's what Flippy's for.
You know, this is a great example of how analytics is ruining society.
Is evil?
It's just complete. It takes any human out of people's thinking. I mean, this guy is clearly thinking with the technocrats and the elite, and I mean, and I don't even know if he's aware. He's clearly not aware because when he writes, it just sounds like he's writing to all of his other elite lizard buddies and like, yeah, isn't it bad? Look at these low workers with no skill and so unproductive.
He kind of forgets that humans will actually be reading his article.
Yeah.
And we've been following for the past year of like how the who was it, the JP Morgan Chase guy was saying like, oh man, I wish we had a recession. Right. And the Goldman Sachs guy was like, man, like a high unemployment rate would really be great right now. Would really love that. And this guy, he kind of just puts it all into one nice little tight little package for us. This is what they want. We are crops. We are machines. And if we're not good machines, they'll replace us with actual machines.
I think that's where this is all headed.